De beursnieuws-update van week 16.
In my opinion, the next thing we'll see is the marriage between NFT's and DeFi.
Marktkapitalisatie. Wat betekent dit voor jou als belegger?
Een impressie van het DevConnect event ETH Day. Merrenge legt uit wat marktkapitalisatie is. Beursnieuws. De beursnieuws-update van week 16. Een koopkrachtdaling van 5,1% reëel. De inkomens blijven achter bij de oplopende inflatie. De CAO-lonen zijn gemiddeld met 2,4% ten opzichte van het eerdere jaar gestegen. Maar deze verbleken bij de huidige inflatie die in maart 9,7% bedroeg. Moeten de lonen dan omhoog? Dan krijg je weer last van een loonprijsspiraal. Om dit tegen te gaan kan je lastenverlichting toepassen. Bijvoorbeeld op de inkomensbelasting. Maar het kabinet heeft daar minder ruimte voor door de miljarden tegenvallers. De dalers van de week zijn Ahold Delhaize met 7% en Just Eat Takeaway met 15,1%. AC Milan voor 1 miljard in Arabische handen. De vermogensbeheerder Investcorp wil het overnemen van het hedgefonds Elliott. Vagron, een onderneming in farmaceutische bereidingen, biedt potentie. De groei kan al uit op 7,6%, maar het aandeel zou nog verder kunnen groeien van €18,03 naar €23. Crypto.
Ik sta hier voor het transformatorhuis, want hier vindt ETH Day plaats. Ja, het is eigenlijk de start van de week van DevConnect. Een week vol crypto-events. Het is georganiseerd door de Ethereum Foundation. En even kijken wat er allemaal gaat gebeuren.
Ethereum is the greatest lever he can use to influence change in the world, and I think that's a really great way to frame it, because as an individual, what can a single person do to affect change? You could maybe become a politician. Not many people are cut out for that. You could, start a non-profit. There are challenges associated with that. You can work individually in your own community, but working in Ethereum specifically, as I imagine many of you are working in, it's a way to be a part of shaping the future. And like Piper said, it's the greatest way to leverage your personal actions into global change.
I work at the Ethereum Foundation. There I run what's called the All-Core Devs calls, which are calls where Ethereum developers get together to discuss potential changes to the protocol. I see Ethereum as a sort of economic layer that's separated from the geographical countries and boundaries that we have, where we can run really interesting experiments, build new types of organizations, and try them in like a context that is a bit separate from the real world. So if we break things, it's not too bad. But then if we come up with cool ideas and new mechanisms, ideally we can try them at scale and eventually kind of export them to governments and companies operating outside of Ethereum.
That's very interesting. And I also read something about the Ethereum blockchain. It was renewed, or it's like better now. It uses 99% less energy.
Yes, so Ethereum always wanted to not use a lot of energy. When we launched in 2015, we used proof of work just because it's quite complicated to do other things. So we've been working and doing research on ways to remove proof of work for the past 5 years. Now we have something that works and that we're happy with, and we're in the process of moving over to this new system. We expect that this will be done sometime this year, and once that is done, basically we go from using a ton of energy under proof of work to basically nothing, so like less than say a company like Netflix or any kind of tech company.
Over the last 2 years, I've built this design studio. It's product design or brand design now. To the outside, it looks like a traditional design studio, but to the inside, it actually resembles this infrastructure that we want to call a DAO. So it's only independent contractors, but they still retain a very high quality output of work, and they are a community that has shared ownership of the entire studio. Ethereum is a little bit similar to the internet in that sense that it's very accessible to scalability of things that we would normally see as only possible in the real world. and like we can now digitize them and make unique artifacts of it. I guess the most cliche problem is like climate change. Like, how do we solve that? It's very large, very all-encompassing, but we need people to collaborate together in different places. Like, we need software to distribute the way that we distribute compensation and reputation across the planet at very little cost. So currently, things like legal infrastructure is very expensive, or even business infrastructure, or governments are very expensive to withhold. But Ethereum kind of makes that almost zero cost.
In my opinion, the next thing we'll see is the marriage between NFTs and DeFi, which in essence allow like the sophistication of financial products, because I feel like there is nothing better than one NFT to actually trade on a specific financial product. Like, this will allow like different like exchange venues to trade bonds, swaps, derivatives that at this moment in time we cannot have, but they're still very tricky. But if we allow like similar to like LP positions, you know, that people are able to actually like trade the contract itself without actually having to move the capital that is deployed on that position or whatever, it will be like the next thing.
We have a panel on DeFi coming up on the main stage, then a debate between pro and anti-NFT, and working in Web3. Yeah, it's gonna get woo! And then on the second stage, we have presentations from the Graph as well, and we're also gonna have a community pitch, so people can stand up and say what they're working on, what they're looking for. So yeah, I know. We're halfway through the event, and I love it.
Culture is a series of companies. It's a venture capital firm, it's a staking platform, it's a creative agency. It's culture plus Web3. Any kind of product that falls at that intersection, that's what we do.
For the crypto noobs, what is DAO?
A DAO is an organization that is internet native. So we weren't able to create organization on the internet. We were only able to create them in certain countries. An organization in France, an organization in the US. Now we can create them on the internet. And there's something fundamentally different about those.
And what is different?
One thing that's different is that they have what we call trust guarantees, so automated processes that you cannot have in organizations that are not on the internet. Number two, people can participate and they can leave organizations, or like DAOs, in ways that they cannot in real life organizations. Because it's much more difficult to get out, to both get into an organization and to get out, than it is through the click of a few buttons. Ethereum to me is like an early version of a website protocol. So I think what we are creating is a new type of internet. It's similar to the existing internet, but what's different about it is that now we can create websites that are much more powerful than the previous generation of websites. And so what Ethereum means to me is really a world where we can transact value online in ways we couldn't before. I don't show up at my bank anymore. I don't want to, right? I can do that now on the computer, and I don't need to call anybody anymore. Every transaction I do always goes through, and literally every week I have problems with banks. You know, I don't have ever any problems with Ethereum-powered websites. So this is just one example of how I think Ethereum is powering a new internet with websites that are a lot better than the ones that we currently have.
What's great about DAOs, and even though we're in the experimentation phase today, at the individual level, you're able to build a history of things that you cannot build otherwise. And this is why you should participate today as opposed to in a year. What I mean is this: some of the actions that you're taking will be tokenized and put on chain. Why? Because instead of sending a CV that's a 2-page PDF with where you have worked, the future CV will be the things that you have done. Right? So you haven't worked on a $2 billion acquisition project or some kind of company that no one knows what you actually did, but we will actually know the very actions that you've taken. The second thing is not just the actions that you've taken, but it's also the value of the outcomes of those actions. Right? And now it's not just a single boss that determines that, but through mechanisms like Coordinate, which aren't perfect, but you know, there's a way for people that you work with in a DAO to say how valuable were you. Over the last 2 weeks, how much value did you actually deliver? And that's a socially assigned value, and you can build a history of that over time. right? And if you start in a year, you miss out on a year's worth of value that will remain hidden from everyone unless you participate today in DAOs. So the great thing about DAOs, build a bunch of friends and show how valuable you actually are, because no one knows.
And it all comes tied to this professionalization that we talked in the beginning. Hey, like, you just need to know that you want to trade asset A for asset B. Then let the, I don't want to say experts, but let the people that actually have business built around this deal with it for you.
Fire.
Marktkapitalisatie, beurswaarde, market cap. Wat betekent dit voor jou als belegger? En hoe kan jij dit toepassen in de praktijk? Wanneer wordt gesproken over het grootste bedrijf ter wereld, dan slaat dit meestal op de marktkapitalisatie. De huidige beurswaarde keer het totaal uitstaande aandelen. Marktkapitalisatie is in te delen in 3 categorieën. Elke categorie kan kenmerken bevatten die interessant kunnen zijn voor jou als belegger. Zo heb je de large caps, de mid caps en als laatste de small caps. Aan de hand van marktkapitalisatie kan je dus aandelen gaan selecteren. Kies jij liever voor kleine, risicovolle groeibedrijven? Of kies je toch liever voor zekerheid en ga je voor de grote beursgenoteerde bedrijven?
Raad het aandeel. Iedere maand maak jij weer kans op leuke prijzen bij Raad het aandeel. Dit doe je door het aandeel goed te raden en in te vullen op www.kuuske.com/raadhetaandeel. Petran uit Marknesse heeft het aandeel van vorige maand goed geraden en heeft daarmee een overnachting in het Arcade Hotel in Amsterdam gewonnen. Het ging om het aandeel Ethereum. Maak kans op het boek Fire van Charlotte van Brabander, bekend van Slim Sparen. Het is een waarde/dividendaandeel met hoge potentie in 2022 en van oorsprong een Nederlands-Brits bedrijf dat wereldwijd actief is met consumentenproducten. De omzet en winst zijn stabiel doordat het bedrijf producten verkoopt die de consument altijd blijft kopen. Het heeft een dividendpercentage van bijna 4% en ziet er voor de rest ook financieel en qua producten gezond en schoon uit. Ga naar www.kuuske.com/raadhetaandeel, vul het aandeel in en maak kans.
Kuuske bedankt haar vrienden van Eck en Beurspro die de talkshow mede mogelijk hebben gemaakt. Adviezen zijn gegeven op persoonlijke titel en onafhankelijk van Kuuske tot stand gekomen.
Deze talkshow bestaat uit 3 items: beursnieuws, tech versus fund, fire en crypto. Bekijk, luister of lees deze items via YouTube, Instagram, TikTok of op de website www.kuuske.com. Vind je het interessant? Like de post, deel het met anderen. Abonneer en volg ons op socials. Zet je notificaties aan.